The number one unwritten rule when you face your biggest rival, take the field in style. November 2020, South Florida unveiled these fresh slime green threads for the annual War on I-4 between the Bulls and in-state rival UCF. The new look featured slime from head to toe.
All right, one more team to get to today as we wrap up the American Athletic Conference 2022 Media Days, and that is USF.
Oh, yeah, don't do that. Tampa, they'll go nuts.
I know. USF. The Bulls went 2-10 last season, but they return a lot of talent down there. They also get a quarterback that transferred from Baylor and Gary Bohannon. I mean, the future looks really bright for Jeff Scott's team.
To me, this is the most intriguing team in the American. You talked about all the pieces coming back. I think, and Coach will probably say this, I want to say they got over 15 players out of the transfer portal, many of those quote-unquote Power 5 players. They had Bob Shoop as a defensive coordinator who's been at multiple big-time schools. This week just hired Chad Morris, former SMU head coach, former Arkansas head coach, who Jeff Scott coached with at Clemson as an analyst. So adding a lot of pieces to that program. So market improvement, to say the least, I believe, out of USF this season.
Yeah, also, I mean, Chad Morris, a guy who can recruit, he was actually just here in Allen, Texas, as a high school coach. I want to run through some of the experience they have on this team. 21 of 24 starters returning from last year. Their top 4 rushers, their top 3 receivers, and 6 of their top tacklers from last season. Oh, and one of their top returning specialists, and Brian Batty. I mean, so the amount of talent is there. Now they have a guy in Gary Bohannon who comes over from Baylor. He was injured towards the end of last season, loses out the quarterback battle, but it gave him a chance to figure out where he wanted to go, which is interesting. It's really the only time this season that we've seen coaches make a move, and it allows USF to be able to say, hey, go out and get that guy before fall camp.
Yeah, and Gary Bohannon is electric. I don't know if you've seen him play. If not, you're in for a treat this season. And I mentioned Jeff Scott bringing in Bob Shoop. Travis Trickett as well as offensive coordinator, so new OC and DC, to all that talent he's bringing back, and then all the additions through the portal. So I am very intrigued with this team this year. I can't wait to see them play.
I'm sure Jeff Scott has to be excited. Let's join him now, head coach Jeff Scott. Coach, thanks so much. I mean, you must look at the roster that you've got coming back and thinking, oh, my gosh, we just have so much talent. We have the possibilities that could be endless with this team.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this roster this year. I think, I think the combination of our returning players and the way they've worked in the offseason, just their overall mentality, mindset, and leadership, and then you add in a lot of the new players that we brought in, many of them transferring from other programs to really fit some needs that we have on our roster. It's been fun. We've had the majority of our team here since January. So the experience that we got in the weight room in January and February, that group coming together, and then obviously during spring practice, it was definitely a big difference just overall on both sides of the ball. And so I'm definitely excited to get out here next week and see how those guys have really transformed over the summer.
All right, Jeff, I will toss things over to Chuck Sullivan, who's going to open up some questions for our media members.
Thanks again, Chris, and welcome, Coach. We'll get started with questions. We'll start with Matt Baker from the Tampa Bay Times, please.
Hey, Jeff, what are your early impressions of Bohannon?
Very strong. Everything that we had hoped from talking to the coaches at Baylor and really from people around him, just about his work ethic, his leadership. I had one of our staff members came up here on Memorial Day, and there was only one car in the parking lot, and that was Gary. And he was up here watching video on Memorial Day. And so those things lined up with what we heard from the Baylor staff about him. But, just overall hearing from our players and from our strength staff about the way he's meshed and really kind of become a leader within his lifting group and running. So I've been very pleased with the early observations and feedback we've gotten since Gary's gotten here.
Take the next one from Kelly Quinlan from Bulls Insider.
Hey, Jeff, I was just curious about kind of attrition, where things stand. Have some guys left since spring? And then also just kind of who popped your eye in OTAs this offseason and offseason workouts of some of the new guys?
Yeah, well, we definitely have attrition. I think that's part of the new landscape in college football. A long time ago, as in about 3 years ago, right, your roster was pretty much, kind of a one time for them to leave and come in, and now it's a continuous thing. But I think for me overall, it's about making sure that we have the right fit for our culture and the standards that we want to have in our program and kind of the vision of where we're going. And then the second thing is, do they bring something to our, the offense or defense where we have a need? And so I really feel like we've improved our roster overall, but there's definitely, been attrition, like you've seen across the country. And then as far as the people that have stood out, I mean, we're very limited in what we're able to do in the summer. They did open up, some opportunities to get on the field with the guys and do some individual work. I think for me, there weren't a lot of surprises because the majority of the players that we're going to be counting on, this fall were here since January. So I think the biggest things that I was able to see, this summer with our guys working was just the progression of guys from spring practice through, the 8 weeks of summer workouts and a guy like, Jimmy Horn, who has added about 12 pounds of muscle mass to his body, and a lot of our guys. We got a defensive end, Tramel Logan, that he was 211 pounds when he got here a year and a half ago, and now he's up to 250 pounds and really just changed his body overall. So I've seen a lot of good progress with our guys throughout the summer, but really the next step obviously is fall camp next week.
We'll go next to Will Turner, please, from Bulls 24/7.
Jeff, you guys were very, very aggressive in the transfer portal early, making sure those guys were getting in the spring. For you guys, what advantages did you see of having those guys in the spring, and now that you're getting into summer, instead of having those guys getting there July 1st, having them already, well invested in having their time invested in the program, but by July 1st?
Yeah, that's a huge advantage. Obviously, the last 10 years or so, you've seen more high school players that are graduating early and coming in January. And, I've been able to see throughout my career the advantages to that, especially with players that are coming in that you think are going to help you as, in the next season. Now with the transfer portal and really the transition that happens between December and January, I believe we had, 79 of our 85 scholarship players here for the entire spring. And that was just, minus a few of the high school guys that would be coming in the summer. So it's a huge advantage. For us as coaches, our year really starts in January. Each new team really kind of gets started in January, and you go through the winter program with your workouts in the weight room and everything that you do on the field conditioning wise, and then getting into spring practice. Obviously, that's, a month and a half that you're able to have meetings and practice, which is very important as you're making decisions and overall, development of your team. And then when they get here this summer, they've already been here for 6 months, as opposed to, the guys are just showing up trying to figure it out. So there's no question that's been an advantage for us this year. And I think it's definitely going to put us further ahead as we start fall camp.
Now to Eric Bailey from Tulsa World, please.
Coach, I appreciate your time today. I cover Oklahoma football, and I wanted to ask you just your thoughts on Brent Venables and his jump to being a head coach for the Sooners. And do you have any really good stories of the time you guys spent together at Clemson?
Yeah, Coach Venables is absolutely incredible. He did a phenomenal job, obviously, at Clemson, and really just transformed our defense there at Clemson into one of the nation's best year after year. Coach Venables was very patient. He loved his time there at Clemson. I know that, he turned down many, many jobs that maybe other people would have kind of jumped at to become a head coach. But, for him, it was about, finding that right fit. Obviously, nobody expected, Oklahoma to open up the way that it did. But whenever it did, I was really proud for him because, I know that the coach that Oklahoma sent us at Clemson and, the development that he had there under Coach Sweeney and so many of the staff members Clemson sending Oklahoma, a great version of Brent Venables, who's ready to be a successful head coach. And I've got a lot of respect for Brent, still very close with him and many of the coaches on his staff, and I know he'll do very well.
Go next to Leo Haggerty, please.
Coach, I know you're not a guy to make excuses, but this is the first of your 3 years in tenure where you have a full spring, a full summer, and hopefully a full fall practice. How important is that to get that culture change and to start the winning tradition?
Yeah, there's no question. There's been a lot of challenges, many, challenges that everybody across the country had to work through. Obviously, coaches like myself and others that came in there in January of 2020, it made it even more difficult, right? I think one of the most critical parts of a coaching transition is that January to August in that very first off season. And obviously with COVID, it was completely different. But, this is what I would say, looking back on it. Obviously we've been through a lot of adversity. There's been a lot of things that we've had to work through. But times of adversity is really where you grow the most. And I know for me individually, as a coach, I've grown a lot in the 2.5 years going through the experiences and trying to overcome a lot of the challenges that we've been going through. And I also feel like as our football program, it kind of creates some scars for you that are really good for your future and for the things that are coming. So, I've told our players, I've been around been a part of some very successful teams and great moments, and really those great seasons are whenever you're breaking through and you've been through kind of that adversity and it's been building and building and building and you finally break through. That's really, the most enjoyable time as a coach and as a player. And I feel like that's the mentality that this team has this year. We know we have a very challenging schedule. We play, 4 of the top teams in our league, and then very challenging non-conference schedules. So we know it's going to be difficult, but with those challenges comes great opportunities, for us to see how we stack up and see the improvement that we've made in the offseason. And I have no doubt that we'll definitely see that this year.
Take the next one from Matt Marshall from the Orlando Sentinel, please.
Jeff, I wanted to ask, how's Gary, got himself acclimated to the quarterback room, and what sort of competition do you expect in fall camp at that quarterback position?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say one thing. Timmy McClain, our returning starter for last year, had the best spring and summer that he's had since he's been here. And I think that, anytime that you're adding talent to a room, to a position, it really raises the level of competition in that room. And I've been really pleased by how Timmy has responded this summer, and he's had an outstanding summer. Our goal is to find who our starting quarterback's going to be sooner than later. I don't envision this something that's going to extend, late into fall camp. I do think it's important for both Timmy and Gary to get an opportunity to go with the ones early in fall camp, let them compete, and then at some point early to middle of fall camp, I feel we're going to make a decision as a staff and going ahead and announcing that for our team so that we can move forward and have time for whoever that starter is to be the leader of that offense and of the team for several weeks getting ready for BYU.
We'll go next to Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times, please, for follow-up.
Jeff, I wanted to follow up with what you were talking about on a breakthrough year and how enjoyable that is. What gives you confidence with this roster and this team that you guys can finally break through this year?
Yeah, well, I think that the biggest thing for me, you're around them every day, right? And just the seeing the progress and how we do things, right? We talk about it's all about the little things, and just watching our guys work this spring, watching them work this summer. We're not having some of the issues that we had my first and second year, where you're trying to get guys to understand what the standard is and to really be able to push through and to do the things that are required to be successful at this level of college football. So it's been completely different in that respect. And then also I feel like this is definitely going to be the most talented team that we've had since I've been here. Obviously, COVID and transition affected our first, team in 2020. And last year I felt like we were in a little bit better position. But, I think the combination of the overall buy-in, the mindset of our players, the additions that we brought in from the player personnel side, and then also Bob Shoop, our defensive coordinator, Travis Trickett, offensive coordinator, they've definitely added to our overall team. And I'm not predicting any number of wins. We'll see what it looks like. It's a very, like I said, you could look at our schedule and make a case that we have the most difficult schedule in the conference. And so it's definitely not going to be easy. But I feel like on your journey to getting to where you want to go, there are those breakthrough wins, those breakthrough moments. And I feel like this team is prepared to be able to experience those this year.
Take the next one from Dan Tortora, Wake Up Call DT.
Coach, not only yourself, but Tony Elliott now being at Virginia and Brent Venables, who you mentioned before, at Oklahoma, just what you can say about that coaching tree that leads back to Coach Sweeney and what it is about Dabo that has been so special and kind of paramount to building success with many coaches, including yourself.
Well, absolutely. I could talk for days on that. Coach Sweeney is just an incredible person, and he's a developer of men, and obviously that's the young men, student athletes as players, but also developing his staff. And I mean, I can remember even before I became a co-offensive coordinator, when I was a recruiting coordinator, and I'd go on the road with him recruiting, just some of the conversations that we would have, and he'd say, hey, when you become a head coach one day, these are some of the things that you're going to have to kind of work through. So, and I know he's having the same conversations with both Tony and Brent. And so really just kind of over time preparing, and I think overall the way that he communicated his culture, his beliefs, and the consistency in that, I think is, overall what helps young coaches, learn. Sometimes there may be a head coach that maybe he does everything and he just wants you to kind of do your job. But Coach Sweeney is one that really not only develops his players, but develops his coaches and his staff. And, but the other side of it is he has such an incredible culture that coaches don't want to leave. And so that's why you saw for many years, the continuity that we had. And then, finally there is a point to go out and spread your wings and, have your opportunity to be a head coach and run your program. But, he's still a major mentor for me and one that I lean on for advice as I'm, navigating the challenges of being a head coach.
And a follow-up here for South Florida and UCF, that was something that has been a rivalry over time, something that people would like to get back, but they're leaving the conference. What are your thoughts on the UCF South Florida connection, and would you like to have a non-conference bout with them when they go to the Big 12?
Yeah, I think there's so many things changing so fast that, it's hard to really, it feels like we're all on a ride right now and everything's just happening super fast. And at some point it's got to slow down and then we can get to a little bit of normalcy of what the future looks like. I think it makes a lot of sense to continue that rivalry. I know it's one that's, been going on, since we have started our program and, been a great rivalry through the years. Now, what that looks like, with the non-conference schedules that have already been planned out, for the next 4 or 5 years, how all that gets set up, I'm sure that'll be decided by, the athletic directors and leadership of the school. But I definitely would like to continue that when possible.
Okay, we'll go next to Peter Blake, please.
What's going on, Coach? You talked about Dabo and his advice that he gave you. Can you kind of expound on that? What kind of advice he gave you going through these adverse times? And then on top of it, how excited are you to add Coach Morris to your coaching staff?
Yeah, well, I would say, overall advice from Coach Sweeney, number one, hey, be yourself, right? And realize that, you don't have to go down to South Florida and try to do everything that we did at Clemson, but take the things that you believe in. And then the other thing is understand you're not going to do it, like that, and really you go back and look at the rise at Clemson. I mean, it took us many years. I can remember, much like I'm just finished my second year going into our third year, we finished 6 and 7 in Coach Sweeney's second year. And there was a lot of questions of what's going on. And Coach Sweeney made the comment actually South Florida came up to Charlotte and beat Clemson in the bowl game, and I was on that staff at Clemson, finishing Coach Sweeney's second year, and there was a lot of questions of what the future looks like, and it was 2010, and I'll never forget, Coach Sweeney in the post-game press conference after losing to South Florida in the bowl game. He talked about the culture change and the process that's been, happening, and the standards beginning to change, and our roster and everything's coming together. And he went out on a limb. He said, we're starting a new decade. And he said, mark my word, in 2020, we'll look back at this, and it'll be the best decade in the history of Clemson football. And the next year, it took off. And also that leads into the next point is Coach Morris came into Clemson the next year. Right there, he was a big part of the change there at Clemson with our offense. I was going into my third year, and Coach Morris came to us from Tulsa after being an offensive coordinator for 1 year. And really, Coach Morris had a way of having a fast-paced offense that maybe looked complicated and created problems for a defense, but was very simple to teach to the players. And we had some really talented freshmen, Sammy Watkins being one of them, coming in that we needed to get on the field and be able to go out and play. And so, that was a big change for us at Clemson during that 2011 season when Coach Morris came in. And so, working very closely with him for 4 years, obviously we developed a great relationship. And then when he left to go to SMU to be the head coach, that's when Coach Sweeney promoted Tony and I to co-offensive coordinators, and we were able to continue running the offense there at Clemson the next 5 years. But, I talked to Coach Morris a lot during his times at SMU, and really SMU was in a very similar situation when he got there to the program that I took over here at South Florida. And really kind of that process, his first year, I think they might have won 1 or 2 games. And then his third year, they won 7 and went to a bowl game for the first time in 5 years. So really, someone kind of leaving Clemson, going into this conference and finding a way to kind of flip and turn the tide a little bit. I think adding him here is going to be a great resource for myself, just from, a lot of the head coaching decisions and somebody I can bounce things off of. But then also for Coach Trickett and our offensive staff to have Coach Morris in the building, just to be able to add some ideas and thoughts. I've been on Coach Morris for the last couple of years to come join us, and really excited that he decided to do that this fall.
We'll take a follow-up. We'll take a follow-up from Kelly Quinlan, please.
Coach, I was just curious about your defense. Just kind of what are the things you're going to look for? What's the identity? I know you wanted to get more aggressive, but just kind of what are you looking for going ahead into this season?
Yeah, I think number one is we have to develop confidence in our defense and in our defensive players, and I saw that this spring. Obviously it starts with your defensive coordinator. Coach Shoup has come in and really got complete buy-in from the defensive players very early in winter and in spring practice. And then, I think overall we've got, you start right there in the middle with Antonio Grier and Dwayne Boyles, 2 linebackers that have played a lot of ball here and have a lot of experience and really kind of leading the way for our defense. And then having some returners in the secondary. I think probably the biggest storyline is we signed 8 defensive linemen in the offseason. Many of those transfers, a guy like Jatorian Hansford coming in from Missouri, he had a great spring. I think he's going to really add a lot to that defensive line position. And then, we have Rashad Cheney came in from Minnesota as a defensive tackle. Rashawn Yates, a returning defensive lineman. I just feel overall that was a position that we really didn't have the quality, talent, or depth that we needed to compete at a high level defensively last year. And I feel like this group that's developed, the returners that have developed, and then the new guys that have come in, I think that's going to be a big change for us. And then the combination of that, along with the scheme and coaching direction from Coach Shoup and our defensive staff, I think that's really the phase that has the chance for the biggest jump this year. And I can't wait to watch those guys play this fall.
Well, we can't wait to watch you play. Jeff Scott, your 3rd season there at USF. Have a great start to fall camp, and we're looking forward to watching you guys get things set on September 3rd.
Great. Thank you for having me on. Go Bulls.
Thank you, Coach. He talks about like the third year.
Yeah.
I was talking to a head coach who said, when I came in and I wanted to put my stamp on a team, it's hard your first year because you're going to have a lot of people pushing back. I wanted to do things the way that I wanted to do. But if you're going to do that, then you're going to get the same results. Year two, it's, okay, thanks, Coach, for implementing it. We see what you were trying to do. And year three is, oh, hey, all that finally gets put together.
Yeah.
And now for Jeff Scott's team, you have that and you have the pieces.
Plus, and he was dealing with COVID those first couple of years, too. So, listen, he doesn't want to do a win prediction. I know their schedule is daunting when you look at it. I'm going to go ahead and make a prediction.
Okay.
This is a breakthrough year for them. They're going to get 6 wins, and they're going to become bowl eligible.
Okay.
So, and we can play this again next year if I'm hired back next year, and we'll see if I'm right. But, yeah, it is a tough schedule. It is. There's a lot of tough games on there. But I think they're going to knock some teams off that people wouldn't expect them to win. I think they're going to win some good games, and I think they're going to get to that 6-win mark. I really do. I think they have that much talent.
I mean, it's a little bit of butterfly effect. You think about how one coaching staff's decision to name a starting quarterback at spring, as Dave Aranda did at Baylor, how that now affects the future of USF, because otherwise there was no one really in the transfer portal during that May, April time in terms of quarterbacks, because most have already found a home or they still don't know if they're going to be named a starter. So now you have Gary Bohannon, who also going in with Timmy McClain, battling out for that job, and you have a whole summer with those two quarterbacks to figure out what you had. Otherwise, you wouldn't have even had Gary Bohannon until maybe the fall.
And I love what he said, right? It has raised the game of Timmy McClain. And I also love what he said was he's not going to dilly-dally towards the end. He's going to get to a point relatively quick in camp, and he's going to name a starter.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. Sometimes you wonder when a transfer comes in, oh, hey, excited that we have this talent coming in, but it also means taking a spot away. So it was really cool to listen to how it's elevated Timmy's role. In terms of, we talk a lot about offense, in terms of defense, now playing in this league against those high-tempo offenses that we see. Where does this defense need to get better?
Yeah, they just need to be more consistent. And the thing up front, when we've talked about up front, brought in a lot of defensive linemen. Coach Scott mentioned that towards the end for them. Just a much improved team again. 6 wins.
6 wins. We'll see. All right, let's listen to some of the players that are joining us. Wide receiver Xavier Weaver, linebacker Antonio Grier. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Xavier, I'm going to start with you because the quarterback position undecided, but Gary joins and Timmy also in this battle. What has this summer been like as those two quarterbacks try and also build some rhythm with you in terms of picking up the football and going out and making a practice?
The summer's been good so far. It feels like we haven't missed a beat. We have a very talented quarterback room, and Gary just came in and just added to it. He been uplifting the younger guys and young quarterbacks, making everybody better around him. So the atmosphere for the summer has been great so far.
Okay, we're going to go right to questions from the media, please. We'll start with Will Turner, please, for the first one.
Hey, for Xavier, obviously last year, you had such a huge year, offensively, you had a breakout season. This year could really be an even bigger year for you for the next level. And if you can cement, have another good year, cement your draft stock, is that kind of in your mind? Is the next level and kind of what you want to do? Is that kind of on your mind this season?
Of course it's on my mind, but also I'm really ready to change this program around, win games, get to a bowl game. Before I even think about all that other stuff, I'm ready to, be a part of the program and be a part of this program while we about to change it. So I'm just ready.
We'll take the next one from Kelly Quinlan, please.
Antonio, defensively, can you just kind of describe what's so different? What are you guys doing differently, and kind of what are your expectations for the defense?
Man, where do I start? Starting with the summer, man, getting these transfers in was a great addition to our team. I'm so grateful for each and every one of them that came in. And like Coach Scott talked about, the defensive line that we got that transferred in is probably the biggest addition to our team, or to our defense specifically. But overall, man, we're stacked. We got a lot of depth and a lot of people to come in and help us. And I'm grateful to have them here as well. A lot of good leadership guys, too, that's willing to step up and take on big roles for us and also lead us. But I'm very excited to see what these guys are going to do this year.
We'll go next to Leo Haggerty, please.
Guys, this is for both of you, and you can decide who wants to answer first. It's got to be nice to see that the university from top to bottom is behind you, and you're going to have that indoor practice facility. How much is that going to help, knowing that rain, sleet, snow, we don't get snow in Tampa, but lightning, you're going to be able to practice at the right time and no practice change?
Go ahead, bro.
I'll probably say first, man, I'm grateful I was noble enough to stay here at University of South Florida through the good and the bad, man, and just to see where this team is going, Coach Scott, what he's doing with the culture of the team is just amazing, man. It's a good thing to be a part of it, and not only that, to be the start of it. You know what I'm saying? And going on our 26th year, 27th year, and just grateful for everything that alumni has done for us and the Bulls. But man, it's amazing what we're going to do this season, and I'm just looking forward to it.
Yeah, piggybacking off of him, like he said, it's definitely amazing, definitely a blessing to be part of it. You know, every day we go out there, walk on the field, and just see the indoor practice facility being built up. You know, and I'm just ready to get inside of it. You know, sometimes we don't have lights at night. We can't, you know, when it's raining, we can't practice. So I'm ready to be in there at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., running routes with the guys. So I'm just excited.
We'll go next to Dan Tortora, please.
This is for you both. Talking about changing, you know, being a part of the change of this program. What makes you believe going into this season that you're ripe to see that change happen in the win-loss column? And then secondly, for you both, if you'd like to see that UCF South Florida rivalry continue when it's a non-conference game.
For sure. You know, I'm excited about the season because I've seen what we did so far in the summer. You know, I see what we're coming from, the coaching staff, the strength and conditioning coaches getting us ready for the season coming up. So I'm excited to see what we ready to show this year. And then, yeah, I can say that. I'm really excited. Ready for y'all to see the new Bulls.
Yeah, man, like he said, I mean, the summer workout, man, the training has been amazing. It's been flawless. Guys transforming their bodies, getting bigger, faster, stronger. On different levels, man, we're bonding as a team. You know, transfers, you probably wouldn't even know that this team has transfers coming in, man. And the way we've bonded, the way we've came together, do things on our own, it's just grateful to see it, man. And, you know, this is my last season. You know, I'm grateful for guys like Zay and, you know, Rashad Cheney coming in, transferring to help us. DJ Gordon coming in, transferring, AB. Man, it's grateful to have all of them here.